Madam Chair, we're all set to go. You may start the meeting now.
Great, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. Welcome to the Monday, March 8th, 2021 City of Burlingame Planning Commission meeting. For all in attendance today, please note that our Planning Commission meetings are now being held in a webinar format. So you will see that planning commissioners and staff are panelists. Please note that there are several ways to submit comments during this meeting. You may raise your hand in Zoom by clicking on the raise hand button located at the bottom of your screen. Members of the public who are participating in the Zoom webinar by phone can dial *9 to raise your hand. You may also submit your comment using chat in Zoom, also by clicking on the bottom button, the chat button at the bottom of your screen. Staff will then read the comment at the appropriate time. Please be aware that chats will be seen by all of the panelists, which include the commissioners and staff, and they are not anonymous. Lastly, you may send your comments by email to publiccomment@burlingame.org. Staff will be monitoring emails submitted during the meeting and will be read at the appropriate time. The length of the emailed comment should be commensurate with the typical 3 minutes that we customarily allow for verbal comments. If you are an applicant or an applicant's representative, we will ask you to raise your hand when your agenda item is up for discussion so that we can be prepared to identify you to speak when it is your turn. We also ask that you turn on your video at that time so we can have better, more clear communication and simulating more the experience we would have if we were meeting in person. This meeting is being streamed live on YouTube and will be uploaded to the city's website after the meeting. So now I'm going to move on to agenda item number 2, roll call. The record should note that 6 members of our commissioners are present this evening. Commissioner Loftus is absent. Agenda item number 3, approval of minutes. We do not have any minutes to approve this evening, so I will move on to agenda item number 4, which is the approval of agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda this evening?
No, Madam Chair, no changes.
Okay, thank you. And do we have any recusals for the evening?
I'll be recusing from, I don't have my list. Cortez. I think
14, 17 Cortez.
Yes.
All right.
And I'll be recusing from 8B and 9B.
Thank you very much. Moving on to agenda item number 5, public comments, non-agenda items. Members of the public may speak about any item not on the agenda. Members of the public wishing to suggest an item for a future Planning Commission agenda may do so during this public comment period. The Ralph Brown Act, which is the state local agency open meeting law, prohibits the Planning Commission from acting on any matter that is not on our agenda. Speakers are limited again to 3 minutes, and we may adjust the time limit depending on the number of anticipated speakers. Please speak clearly into the microphone. Do we have any members of the public who wish to speak on an item that is not on our agenda this evening?
I'm not seeing anything in chat, and there are no emails that are not for a project that's on the agenda already.
Okay, great, thank you. So with seeing none, then we'll move on to the next item, which is agenda item number 6, study items, for which we have none this evening. So moving on to agenda item number 7, consent calendar. We also have no consent calendar items to review this evening as well. So I will move on now to agenda item number 8, regular action items. The first item this evening is 8A 139 Loma Vista Drive. If you are the applicant or the applicant's representative, please raise your hand so we can identify you to speak at the appropriate time. And again, if possible, we ask that you turn on your video at the time you speak. Were any commissioners not able to visit the project site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communications regarding this project? Seeing none, let the record note that all commissioners present have visited the project site. May we have a staff report, please?
Yes, an application for design review for a first and second story addition to an existing one-story single-family dwelling with an attached garage at 139 Loma Vista Drive was approved by the Planning Commission on December 9th, 2019. The applicant submitted an FYI for proposed changes to the previously approved project. The Commission voted to pull the item for further review. Following the approval of the design review application and issuance of the building permit, the property owners proposed modifications and are requesting that the Commission approve the following changes. First, change the proposed front door from a 36-inch wide glass door to a 42-inch wide solid wood door with a new side light located to the left of the front door. Second, install faux windows above the existing garage door. The faux windows would be attached to the outside of the garage wall. Third, replace the stucco band below the second floor roof eave with wood siding. Fourth, remove the low wall on the front porch and extend the wood guardrail to the porch floor. And fifth, change the approved smooth stucco siding to textured stucco to match the existing siding. The applicant submitted a letter of explanation dated February 22nd, 2021, providing an overview of the proposed changes. Plans have been submitted showing the originally approved building elevations and the proposed changes, date stamped February 23rd, 2021. The applicant is available to answer questions, but first I'm available for questions of staff.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff? Seeing none, I'm going to open the public hearing. Would the applicant please step forward, state your name, and add anything you would like regarding your project? Is the applicant in attendance?
Yep, sorry, let me do this. So yes, the applicant, oh, and then we see another one.
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Hi, how are you?
Good.
We made the changes because due to our financial difficulty. I think the changes will help our financial a lot if those changes will be approved.
All right. Is there another person that's would like to speak representing this project? Director Gardner, did you say there was another person?
Yeah, I think there was a phone number which, sorry, so I think the person with the phone number can talk. Actually, if they could raise their hand one more time, I messed up my side here.
So if you are the applicant or the applicant's representative for this project at 139 Loma Vista Drive, can you raise your hand, please, so we can identify you?
Yes, I am the owner.
Yes, Brandon, we have you. Was there somebody else that was?
Right. My architect should be here too.
I think we're trying to locate this person.
Oh, right. Here we go. So, Ha Gwen has their hand up and may speak.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Hang Nguyen, and I'm the designer of this project. And I'm helping the owner, Brandon, and Flora to help with document all the changes they would like to propose. So Brandon and Flora explain the experience a major financial loss, and they also experience the increase in the labor and material cost, and so the original budget is no longer applicable, and they wish to make this change to help with the budget and help to complete the project.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant? Commissioner, Vice Chair Taronis?
Yeah, thank you. So how are for the faux windows over the garage door, how are those going to be built?
We will try to build a frame on the wall and attach the window on it. Right.
So is the builder going to build these on site? In other words, you're not going to get some sash or something from a window manufacturer. It's going to actually be built on site.
Right. We extend the trim like along with the existing window the garage door trim, and then build the trim and add the windows.
And so the obscured glass that was left at the City Hall, it's painted white on the back as for the obscured glazing?
Right. So I talked to the manufacturer. They were able to like make any color if we can, if we want. If we will make it to like the other color, they are able to do so.
Okay. Because the reason I'm asking is typically a window, contrary to what a lot of people think, windows during the daytime, they typically don't appear blue like the sky, like some people draw. They're not gray like shown in these drawings. They're usually dark. Sometimes they might have a curtain in front of them. You wouldn't expect that in a garage window, but you would expect these to be dark because the interior of the garage would be dark. At night, you would expect when lights are on, then windows aren't dark, they're light. But no one would expect to have light coming out from a garage. So you would expect these windows to be dark.
Okay, no problem.
I have concerns in terms of how that obscured glazing is going to look. And secondly, now I have some concerns as to how they're going to be built and what they're going to look like as just sort of frames that are attached. Would the frames, would the frames be attached over the stucco, or is the stucco going to be removed and then re-stuccoed with trims? Well, trims attached to this site-built sash and then stucco then that is patched around that trim?
We were thinking like just attach with the stucco, but if actual work, if the stucco like sticking, if we put the trim like sticking out like too far, we might remove some stucco to make it smooth, like flat. Right.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Gall? Commissioner Gall?
Yeah, I was actually trying to just trying to unmute myself. Yeah, I think Commissioner Taronis got to the point that I was after too. I mean, I was concerned that the windows would be more or less hung on the wall like a picture, but it sounds as if the applicant is going to remove the stucco and then put the window in against the framing and then put the same trim around. Is that correct?
If necessary, we move a little bit of the stucco, not the whole opening.
Okay, but how thick is your stucco? It's only going to be 3/4 of an inch thick, and your window is going to be at least an 1.5 inches thick. And so it's not going to line up with the trim on the garage doors. Is kind of where we're steering this whole thing.
Okay, so we can remove the stucco as long as like we don't have to like open the whole area.
Okay, all right, thank you.
No problem.
Commissioner Sargent?
Yeah, so I understand your desire to go back and match the original drawing, which makes sense. But did you look at any alternatives to kind of softening that that area there, like for example, the trellis?
No, I don't think so, but I will have, I will talk to my architect with this.
Okay, thank you.
Would you mind if you can explain about the idea of the trellis?
Well, I think, what we've seen in other situations like this, where we've had a high head like this of, is basically build a bracket onto the wall and do a small trellis to help break up the, that space there. Basically knee braces on either end and then a long beam across, and then probably 2 or 3 by material on the top and a trellis.
Yeah, my concern that the span is quite large. I think it's 15 feet. So to carry a member that far, the bracket need to be substantial structure modification to make the brackets and the frame work together. So I don't know if it necessarily help to in terms of the budget for the project.
Well, I totally understand where you're coming from on the budget, but our concern is maintaining the integrity of the design. And unfortunately, we can't really, the design guidelines don't allow us to consider budget as part of the findings we need to make. And I think what my fellow commissioners were driving at with the window proposal is that the details, that it could look really good and look integral to the design and enhance the building if the details are done correctly. But if the details aren't done correctly, I think I certainly don't want to put words in their mouth, so I'll speak for myself, that if the details aren't done correctly, it'll really detract from the design and look like it's was added after and not really integrated into the overall project. Yeah. So I think the concern so far is there's not enough detail for us to understand exactly how this is going to look and whether it's something that's approvable or not.
So is it possible if the owner can build a little mock-up on the above of the window? I mean, is there a portion for mock-up and to have the commissioner come by to review it, rather than change it completely to a different direction?
Well, it's something we can certainly consider. I can't, that's something that once we close the public hearing and discuss the application, it's something we can consider.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so if applicable, we will provide, or staff will provide some further guidelines for you, Mr. Nguyen, in terms of how you can address this issue as we continue forward through this discussion. So I'm going to ask now if anyone from the public would like to speak on this item. Please raise your hand submit a chat or quick email.
I don't see anything in the chat. We did have an email from someone requesting a hard copy of the application, which the planner can follow up with. So I won't read that one out because it's just an information request. But otherwise, I do not see any other public comments on this item.
Okay, thank you. So with that, I'm going to now close the public hearing. Commissioners, comments? Commissioner Sargent?
Yeah, just to follow on what I said. I mean, we didn't have Commissioner Loftus here to express our normal moral outrage at being put in the position of having to approve something after it's changes after they've already been done, which I'm sorry he's not here, but I feel obligated to mention that. And I always feel uncomfortable in this position. And I think of having to approve something that's already been built when it differs from what we've approved, because I think that just puts us in a very uncomfortable position. Having said that, I think, this is something that as I said when I called this up, this is a condition like this where we have this kind of open headspace, if you want to call it that. We've always asked for something to address it. And I think, to kind of reframe my remarks, what I was said in the question period, I think this could be what they've proposed above the garage door could be done really well, or it could be done not so well. And I don't think there's enough detail in the architectural drawings that we have to tell us which way it's going to go. And I'm not sure an on-site markup or a mock-up is the way to go, but maybe if the commission decides that this is an acceptable alternative, and I'm not sure that it is, given Commissioner Taronis's questions about the backlight on the glazing, whether this is even the right solution. But if it is, maybe a shop drawing as an FYI might be a way to get at more detail of what's actually going to be done. But as it's proposed right now, based on the further discussion we've had with the applicant, I'm not sure we really know how this is going to look when it's done.
Vice Chair Tronis?
Yeah, thank you. I feel the same as Commissioner Sargent. So sort of just, looking at it, the whole of what's been submitted, I think it's a bit unfortunate. I think the original design was better. Having the solid frieze up under the eave and the more solid porch railing made the house a little bit more horizontal. So I think that was a little bit better design. That said, though, I can't wholly say that I wouldn't have approved or we wouldn't have approved what's been submitted now in terms of the porch railing and in terms of, that frieze not being there. So my attention then is focused on the garage. As Commissioner Sargent said, in order for these faux windows to work, I think what at least has to happen is probably the 3/4 set to 7/8 inch 3-coat plaster needs to get removed, get down to the level of the plywood, have some sort of well-built sash made with the obscured glass, have those installed and then trimmed in, stucco patched, etc. I find it hard to believe, though, that it wouldn't be simpler or less expensive to build the type of trellis that Commissioner Sargent was suggesting that's been accepted before. Yes, it's a long span. You'd have to have 4x8 or 4x10, primary members, some knee braces and some trellis members, but that could be done over or with the stucco in place, not have to include a lot of removal and tearing things apart. So I think the option, at least for me, is everything is acceptable except for, or approvable, let's put it that way, except for the issues of the garage that either have to go back to what was originally proposed, meaning windows over the garage, or something else come back to us as either an FYI or either a revision or something else from the applicant.
Commissioner Gall.
Yeah, I would agree with Commissioner Tronis's comments about the options. I think that a trellis is a good option if you were to decide to try to get a window put in there. I think prior to doing that, we should see some kind of a section of the entire wall, including the header of the garage door, so we understand where the window will sit, the thickness of the window. I don't think it's going to work, and that's why I would ask for a section drawing that would show that detail clearly so we can understand it. But the other option, of course, is to do a trellis.
Commissioner Schmidt.
Yes, I think the window solution is going to leak and it's going to rot because unless we do what Commissioner Toronto said and rip out the entire front of that garage, you're not going to get the flashing, and it's just going to have moisture behind it the entire time. So just gluing on the glass isn't going to work. I wholly agree with the trellis. But I also find that there really isn't much in this new elevation that represents the house that's there. I went back and watched the previous video for the approval, and there was, it was actually asked and answered that there wasn't going to be changes to the hardscape and the landscape in the front, but yet we actually have an entirely different yard with new tile that doesn't really go. The fact that the railing now is supposedly going down to the level of the porch, it actually doesn't. There's about a foot of wall there. So it's not what was approved, and it's not what is drawn here either. So I think, we're being put in this position yet again, but these drawings don't even come close to reflecting what is going on there now and what we're being asked to approve. There's materials in the keynotes that aren't there. There's materials that are there that aren't in the keynotes. So I really feel that before we can do anything with this, they need to clean it up. Because I think that if we just allow this to go forward like this, it's just continuing to do more. And this is partly why I think we need to be doing more with these renderings during these design study sessions to make sure that people really do understand the materials that they're picking. The pickets on the railing, they're interior pickets. They don't match anything with the design of this house. And if I saw a photograph of that as part of the presentation, there's no way I would have approved that. So I think that a lot more documentation maybe needs to be done, and some honesty about what has been done before we can really say what they need to do to correct it. So it looks like a whole different project to me than even in the drawings. So I think more needs to be done.
Commissioner Camerado.
Yeah, I actually concur with Commissioner Schmidt. I mean, I looked at the plans and I went to the house, and I just feel like we need a little bit more detail on these plans. It's not exactly cohesive. So I think I would follow Commissioner Schmidt's advice.
Vice Chair Tronis.
In light of what Commissioner Schmidt has brought to our attention, then I make a motion that we deny without prejudice the entirety of the revised submittal.
I would second that.
All right, so we have a motion by Commissioner Tronis, seconded by Commissioner Camerado. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I would agree with what the motion, and I'm going to support it. Just to be clear, give direction to the applicant that they need to review the proposed changes, make sure the plans match what's actually there, and either consider a different option for the head above the garage door, or provide more detail on how they're going to do what they've proposed.
Madam Chair, just through the chair, we do have the hand up from the property owner. It's completely your discretion whether or not to re-engage with the property owner. I think the commission has provided direction, and the project planner can work with the applicant going forward, but I did want to advise that the applicant did request to speak again.
I think it's pretty clear. You can tell me if anyone doesn't agree. It seems pretty clear the direction that we need to, instructions that we need to provide to the applicant for next steps. I don't think we're going to gain anything by opening the discussion again to the public. So
I'll just clarify for the applicant, denial without prejudice does allow a resubmittal. So this can continue to be refined and responded to based on the commissioner's comments. But it is, and should you have more questions, your project planner can advise.
all right. If there's no further discussion on this motion, I will ask for a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Camerado,
Commissioner Camerado, you might be muted.
I see a thumbs up, so I think that says yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Gall,
Yes.
thank you.
Aye.
Commissioner Gall's aye. Commissioner Sargent,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmid,
Aye.
Vice Chair Toronis,
Aye.
and Chair Say.
Aye. So the motion passes 6-0-0-1. And this action is not appealable. We will move on to agenda item 8B, 1417 Cortez Avenue.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Since there's a denial, Kevin, isn't that appealable in fact?
Yes, I beg your
Even
pardon,
though
it
it was a denial
is.
without
So
prejudice.
yes, it's Chair Say, if you could read the.
Oh,
appeal
okay, I'm
language,
sorry.
And
Sorry,
this
I
would allow the applicant, should they decide, they may appeal to the city council.
With the same application.
Yes.
Okay, I apologize for that. So an action by the Planning Commission is appealable to the City Council within 10 days of the Planning Commission's action. If the Planning Commission's action has not been appealed or called up for review by the City Council by 5 p.m. on the 10th day, the action becomes final. In order to be effective, appeals must be in writing and must be accompanied by an appeal fee of $1,075, which includes noticing costs. Now we move on to agenda item 8B, 1417 Cortez Avenue. If you are the applicant or the applicant's representative, please raise your hand now so we can identify you and prepare you to speak when it is your turn. And if possible, please turn on your video at that time.
Madam Chair, I'm going to recuse from this item as I have a financial interest in the project.
Thank you. And Commissioner Camerado is also, I believe, recusing from this item.
I am. Thank you.
Thank you. And your reasons, Commissioner Camerado?
Financial. as well.
Okay. Thank you. Were any commissioners not able to visit the project site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communications regarding this project? Let the record note that all commissioners present have visited the project site. May we have a staff report, please?
Yes, this is an application for design review for a new 2-story single-family dwelling. The existing 2-story detached garage and accessory dwelling unit would be retained and updated at the address of 1417 Cortez Avenue, zoned R1. The applicant proposes to demolish the existing main dwelling on the site and to build a new 2-story single-family dwelling. The existing 2-story detached structure would be retained and updated, and the proposed floor area for the project is 3,080 square feet, where 3,142 square feet is the maximum allowed. This application does include a detached accessory dwelling unit, which has received the required administrative approval by staff. This application went forward as a design review study item at the February 22nd, 2021 hearing. In response to the commission's comments at that hearing, the applicant submitted revised plans and a response letter date stamped February 25th, 2021. The commission should also have before them a received after item from the applicant, which was submitted March 5th, 2021, which shows some revised landscaping to add additional pockets of vines at the left side fence line next to the driveway. There are conditions of approval listed in the staff report, and I can take any questions that you might have of staff.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff? Seeing none, I'm going to open the public hearing. Will the applicant please step forward, state your name, and add anything you would like regarding your project?
Yes, hi, James Chief from Chu Design Associates. So we pretty much made all the changes that you recommend or suggest at the last Planning Commission meeting. The first thing we did was the roof pitch. We lowered from 712 to 512. We added more landscaping at the rear between the driveway and the patio. Also added some vine at the rear left side along the fence. And also the Hollywood driveway. I hope that adjusts your comments, and hopefully we receive approval tonight.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant? Any questions for the applicant? Any members of the public who would like to speak on this item?
I do not see anyone in chat, and there is no emails in the public comment at burlingame.org.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'm going to close the public hearing. Commissioners, comments? Vice Chair Taronis?
Yeah, thank you. I like the revisions that have been made. I appreciate them reconsidering the roof pitch. I think that helps. As was discussed before, I think that it was going to create a really broad frontage for that metal roofing. So I think that the design is improved with that revision. I think it's approvable at this point.
Commissioner Schmidt?
Same. I was going to make the same comment, so I agree. And I think it's approvable as well. And since nobody else has their hand raised, I'll be happy to make a motion to approve this project.
All right, I'll second that motion. So we have a motion by Commissioner Schmidt, seconded by myself, Commissioner Say. Is there any discussion on the motion? May we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Gall,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Aye.
Vice Chair Taronis,
Aye.
and Chair Say.
Aye. So the motion passes 4-0 to 1. An action by the Planning Commission is appealable to the City Council within 10 days of the Planning Commission's action. If the Planning Commission's action has not been appealed or called up for review by the City Council by 5 p.m. on the 10th day, the action becomes final. In order to be effective, appeals must be in writing and accompanied by an appeal fee of $1,075, which includes noticing costs. Congratulations. Moving on to agenda item 8C, 1151 Rosedale Avenue. Were any commissioners not able to visit the project site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communications regarding this project? Seeing none, let the record note that all commissioners present have visited the project site. May we have a staff report, please?
Yes, the applicant proposes to demolish more than, sorry, let me start again. Applicant proposes to demolish more than 50% of the exterior walls of the existing house at 1151 Rosedale Avenue, reconstruct the first floor and build a new second-story addition and a new detached one-car garage. The Planning Commission reviewed this item as a design review study item on September 14th, 2020, and motioned that the project would benefit from a design review consultation. The applicant met with the design review consultant, and subsequently the project designer submitted revised plans, date stamped March 1st, 2021, as well as a response letter outlining the changes made from the previous proposal. The design review consultant has provided an analysis dated March 1st, 2021, which is included with the staff report. In her analysis, the design review consultant notes that the addition of siding, window grids, stone, and trim add detail and scale to the transitional style home with craftsman elements. In summary, the application is for design review for a first and second story addition to a single family dwelling and a new detached garage. The applicant is available for questions, but first I'm available for questions of staff.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff? Seeing none, I'm going to open the public hearing. Will the applicant please step forward, state your name, and add anything you would like regarding your project? And I think.
Hello.
Oh.
Hi,
Hello.
I'm Sapphire Huey. I'm the owner of 1151 Rosedale. And we're just really excited to build our dream home for our family. That's about it. What do you have anything else to say?
No.
Yeah, we are. It's a fun process so far.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant? Vice Chair Toronis?
Yeah, I mean, this isn't a substantial question, but I am compelled to ask. Can I ask you, as the homeowners, how it was going through the design review process with the consultant?
How is it going? Go ahead, answer.
Oh, I'm sorry. Could you repeat that?
Okay.
How did you feel the process went going through the design review consulting?
You know what? I think my architect can answer that.
Okay.
Is he on right now? I don't see him.
Just tell me how you feel. It was a pretty fun, easy process. It was easy going, you know. She just gave us some pointers. She mostly worked with the architect. So but between us reading the emails and going back, it was pretty straightforward, pretty easy.
Okay, thanks for sharing. I just more curiosity than anything. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have any members of the public who would like to speak on this item? Or commissioners, did you have any questions? I'm sorry, did I ask that question yet? No. So would anybody from the public like to speak on this item?
We do have an email which was sent. It's sent both to the planning commissioners as well as the public comment email box. So typically something that's sent to public comment, we do read as an item. So I can read that. It's a fairly long email, so I don't know if I can do it within 3 minutes. But we also don't assume that commissioners are receiving emails during the meeting. And this one was sent at 7:04 p.m. So I will start. I'll start at 3 minutes and try to not go so fast that no one can understand what I'm saying. Good evening, Commissioner. We met with Mr. Warren Huey on 225 and also received a revised plan map. As we compared with their first and second plan map, the revised plan map has added 2 more big windows upstairs and added 1 big window downstairs to replace downstairs the door. We appreciated change door to window. The plan map looks better. My husband signed the revised plan map the day we met Mr. Warren Huey. I'm still confused with the distance and where they placed the upstairs windows. According to Mr. Huey's explanation that the upstairs windows should be more than 10 feet distance between the 2 houses. I cannot imagine what it looks like since there is no clear It is not clear both house distance picture image on the plan map. I asked my dad to draw a picture of the houses, see attached. Is it going to look like that? Could you help with my following questions? One, what exactly is the distance from the Rosedale house to my fence, since the Rosedale house would be 6 feet closer to my house? Two, is it possible to change both upstairs 2 big slide windows to 1 slide window? My second thought is they have 3 big windows upstairs. The middle one is okay, but the both slide big windows may be too close to my downstairs bedroom window and the living room windows, especially upstairs bathroom window. I think their windows might affect our upstairs bathroom and downstairs room's privacy. Imagine staying in my downstairs room that the neighbor's upstairs windows just off the top of my head. So the 1 slide window at each side might affect less privacy. 3, there will be no trees, but there will be a 7-foot high fence between both houses, right? I know my neighbor's not happy. We keep asking to change the plan map, but from our side, we're not happy either. We spent a lot of money to purchase and added more rooms for our Westmore house. We did not expect the neighbor to add a second addition and all windows facing our side. It is not easy and frustrating for us too. We lost a lot of nighttime sleep trying to understand Mr. Huey's plan map. I still don't quite understand. We just wanted to fully understand what it would look like after they build their addition instead of later on in the disagreement. We'll be living there a long time. It doesn't matter if the neighbor will live there or flip the house. The important thing is a good plan map for both the neighbor house and my house's views and privacy. I wish I could walk in the city planning department and ask my questions. So sorry for the inconvenience. We really appreciate your help and thank you in advance. And this is signed Gunnar and Kay.
Thank you. Plenty of time to spare. All right, then at this point, I'm going to close the public hearing unless the applicant wanted to say anything in response to that letter, the public comment letter.
Warren, do you want to say something? You got to unmute, Warren.
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I met with them and I explained to them where the windows are. And they seem to be fine with it then. And now I'm surprised that they sent you a letter saying that they're still concerned. My drawing shows on sheet G where their window is and where my window will be on detail number 3.
So to understand that the lighter shaded area is the neighbor's
Window,
window
yes,
locations.
right.
So so am I to understand then that other than the central window upstairs with the grid of 4 and the window on the lower right-hand side, all other windows are opposing the neighbor's windows?
Yes,
And you said that they were in approval of that originally?
yeah, they signed my drawing. You should have a copy of it.
We don't have a signed drawing, but we do see your drawing where you've superimposed the neighbor's house.
I sent it to the planner when I sent you all my drawings. As a signed drawing that they said they approved it. And I also sent it to the design consultant.
Okay. Well,
This is kind of coming from a left field, right? Because our understanding was all the issues were we fixed all the issues that we had with them, and the last issue they had was that sliding door. And now that we're just, we're like, okay, forget it. We don't want to argue with you anymore, and we're just gonna take out the sliding door altogether, right? So we don't have to keep going back and forth. And now that they signed it, and they're coming up with something else. So I'm not sure what the deal is.
Madam Chair, we do have in our staff report 2 8.5 by 11 elevations. They say approved February 25th, 2021. There's a signature. I can't attest as to whose that signature is, but that may be what Mr. Warren is.
Yeah, that's the owner's signature.
The neighbor to the back, okay. Sorry, okay, so, well, I think that's all we can say about that right now. So, unless there's anything else you would like to add, Warren or Sapphire, we will, let's see. There is a chat that's come in. Oh, I'm sorry, that's for another project. So with that, I think I'm going to close the public hearing and we will go to commissioners' discussion on the item. So commissioners, Commissioner Gall?
Yeah, I gotta say first off that when I opened this up, I didn't even recognize the house. I think this was a fantastic transformation and a lot of great work by the design review consultant and the architect working together. I mean, I'm really pleased with the design. So I'd like to see this move forward. As far as the concern with the neighbor, I understand that, but the long and the short of it is that second floor appears to me, from reading the drawings, that second floor appears to be about 10 feet from the property line. Both houses will be 2-story, and we don't have large setbacks. We're on top of each other in Burlingame, and it's everyone's right and to build their house how they like it within the design review, within the design guidelines and with our approval. So like I always say, this works both ways. So the neighbor could mitigate part of this by planting on their side. So could the applicant. Maybe they can work something like that out. But in this form right now, I find this project completely approvable.
Commissioner Schmidt?
Yeah, I agree. I was blown away at how well the design has changed. I had big concerns for this from the first time, but I think it looks great now. I think that the house is no closer than if it were, further down the block and they were right next to each other. That 10 feet's a full driveway, so that's not any more distance than I would expect in any other location. And the fact that the other house is actually already 2 stories shouldn't prevent this owner from being able to do what they need to do within the guidelines. So I support this project.
Vice Chair Taronis?
Thank you. Yeah, I have to echo what the other commissioners have said. I was stunned when I opened up the revised plans. The reason I asked, just out of curiosity, the applicant in terms of how they felt the design review process went is because I just have to commend both the design review consultant and really appreciate our process because it made the project that much better. It's much more charming, that detached garage and the fence that reaches out to it, I think is just a really wonderful piece of architecture. It's going to be a neat little building out there, and the structure has been nestled into the site much better. Bringing down the plate heights really helps. In regards to the second floor, I think it's actually that rear facade is probably even more than 10 feet if I'm reading from the adjacent structure, because the rear of the house is 6 feet from the property line. The second floor is set back probably about 3 or 4 feet from there. And then the neighboring house is not right on the property line. There's some distance there, so it's probably more than 10 feet. But again, that said, as Commissioner Gall points out, we don't have an ordinance that guarantees privacy. We ask and we suggest and we cajole, but there's nothing that we necessarily can require other than just considerations and considerability. So I agree the project is approvable at this point.
Commissioner Camerado?
I agree with my fellow commissioners and I move that we approve this project as per the staff report.
I'll second.
Thank you. I also wanted just to add that I appreciate, I did find in my packet the approval from the neighbor for those elevations that you mentioned, Warren, and want to thank you for working with your neighbor and to go into that extent to get their approval. And I also agree with what my fellow commissioners are stating about the lack of a privacy ordinance that we make our judgment calls on, and the fact that there is a pretty significant setback between the properties, and especially to that second floor. So we have a motion by Commissioner Camarado, seconded by Vice Chair Toronis. Is there any discussion on the motion? May we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Commissioner Camarado,
Aye.
Commissioner Galt,
Aye.
Commissioner Sargent,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Aye.
Vice Chair Toronis,
Aye.
and Chair Say.
Aye. So the motion passes 6-0-0-1. An action by the Planning Commission is appealable to the City Council within 10 days of the Planning Commission's action. If the Planning Commission's action has not been appealed or called up for review by 5 p.m. on the 10th day, the action becomes final. In order to be effective, appeals must be in writing and must be accompanied by an appeals fee of $1,075, which includes noticing costs. Congratulations. We will now move on to agenda item number 9, design review study items. The first item is 9A 22 Channing Road. If you are the applicant or the applicant's representative, please raise your hand now so we can identify you and prepare you to speak when it is your turn. And we also ask you that you turn on your video at that time. Were any commissioners not able to visit the project site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communications regarding this project? Seeing none, let the record note that all commissioners present have visited the project site. May we have a staff report, please?
This is an application for a design review for first and second story addition to an existing single family dwelling at 22 Channing Road, zoned R1. The subject property has an existing 2-story house and an attached garage, and the applicant is proposing additions to all floors of the split level house. The project proposes a total floor area of 2,773 square feet, where 2,943 square feet is the maximum allowed. There are a total of 4 bedrooms in the existing house, and this will not change with the proposed project. The existing attached garage provides the single required covered parking space for the 4-bedroom house. The project also includes an attached ADU on the lower level at the rear of the house, and this has received the required administrative approval by staff. The commissioner should have received after items sent to their email at 5:44 p.m. today regarding this project. The received after item was from Kieran Saunders and Anne-Sophie Garman regarding window placement on the second floor of the proposed house. That concludes the staff report summary, and I can take any questions of staff.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff? Seeing none, I'm going to open the public hearing. Will the applicant please step forward, state your name, and add anything you would like regarding your project?
Good evening. My name is Adam Biddle of Architecture Allure. I'm the architect for the project. So just a quick summary on this project. It has a handful of, I'd call it smaller miscellaneous improvements to the split level home. As noted in the staff report, majority of the additions are to the rear of the house and some adjustments to some upstairs rear dormers. And then basically an overall update to the exterior aesthetic, removal of the siding, roofing, material palette, and trying to update to a little more modern look that maybe ties in with the adjacent neighbors. One thing that is a little interesting on this that may not be obvious, the front elevation, if you look, the forms, there's no real change as seen from the street. The addition that you see noted and hatched on our site plan for the second floor, kind of to the interior of the house, that's all embedded underneath that, that tall roof line. So there's no actual form addition, it's just added condition space. So the rear, what we're calling ground floor level of the split level at the rear of the house, it sits just above 7 feet above grade. I think 6 feet is the threshold to be counted as second floor in Burlingame, and that's why we're here, because we increase over that 100 square foot threshold because of that split level you see on the right side. To the neighbor comment that was received, and it was passed along to me this evening, I've already had a couple back and forths with the neighbor, and we're looking forward to sync up with them. They had a question on the south elevation where we are increasing the existing dormer to allow some head height in that rear bedroom. The opposite side there. Yep. So that increase, I showed them an aerial, the right side window that you're seeing on the upstairs. It has about a 12.5 foot horizontal displacement to their second story bedroom window. And so kind of like what you just talked about in the previous project, those are bed wall windows. So we're going to coordinate with them and try to see how we might be able to mitigate some privacy. But that comment just came in this evening. And then the owners have connected more recently to the recent buyer of the opposite neighbor at 28 Channing. So, but at this time, I'd look forward to answering any questions I can.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Schmid?
Yeah, hi. I wanted to maybe get a little bit more clarity. Is all the stucco being removed?
The idea is we'd like to rid ourselves of that texture. So whether or not there's a clean way to add a new coat, a smooth integral layer, I assume it's probably going to be maybe removal. I'm not quite sure, but we definitely don't want the look that's there right now.
Okay, so if you were going to add on to it, how are you going to deal with the trims that are the eave board? You know, everything is, there's really no overhang. It's all flush.
Yep. I mean, usually we add a little flush fascia board up top when we don't have an eave or exposed rafter tails, and then we dye the plaster right up underneath it. Something that's clean and ties in with the gutter.
Okay. And all new windows?
Yes, all new windows, aluminum clad.
Okay. The garage door went from having some texture to it to not really.
Yeah, in trying to kind of give a little more modern feel, they're looking at maybe a stained wood for the garage and the entry door, maybe to accent, the adjacent materials. It's probably, well, actually I called out painted, so my apologies there, but something with the entry door and garage door to distinguish themselves, maybe a little different than the more toned down material palette elsewhere.
Okay. I'm good.
I thought I saw another hand up. Looks like it's gone down.
I had my hand up, but Commissioner Schmidt addressed the questions that I had.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Gall?
Yes. So could you, if you would call this a style, would you call it a modern home then? Is that what you're striving for?
Honestly, I'd say the style they're striving for is in this neighborhood and with this house is probably more transitional. I hate to use that term, but I mean, I wouldn't call it modern in my mind.
Okay.
We're trying to modernize the material palette.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time grasping what exactly we're trying to do here with the feel of the house or the architecture of the house. If we could slap a name on it, transitional probably doesn't help. But my other question is on that side bay. I'm kind of uncomfortable with the way it looks. I get it that you need to put that dormer up there on the top and get rid of that tall, steep, pitched roof over the bay, but you're chopping it off, and to me, it looks like you're chopping it off. You know what I mean? I don't know if there's a better way to deal with it, but I'm wondering if you looked at any other options there.
Yeah, it's not being chopped off to a flat roof. It's adding a low slope, kind of mimicking the adjacent one to the right.
Okay.
So if you looked at the rear elevation, you'll see the slope returning back to the dormer itself. It's not hidden,
Yeah.
but it's definitely not lopped off. I mean, the
Okay.
form will have a sloped roof.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Let's see. All right, then, would anybody from the public like to speak on this item? Do we have any?
I'm not seeing anything in the chat, and let me just double check our public comment. Public comment inbox, nothing on this one.
Okay, thank you. With that, I will then close the public hearing. Commissioners, comments? Vice Chair Toronis?
Yeah, I had similar questions, if not concerns, at least questions regarding the style, regarding the architecture. My concern is that, you know, I get it. When if someone doesn't want or like a Tudor style house, you know, not going to try to force that onto anybody. But the problem that I see is that what's proposed is basically stripping the house of the Tudor details, the character, which, like I say, may be okay, but it's that Tudor character that makes the steeply pitched roofs, the sort of quirky attic spaces, kind of rambling rooms that you would expect in a tall Tudor style house that make the architecture work. But with the revised design, we're removing all of the muntins from the windows. So it's devoid of any charm or character that the existing house now, and it honestly and frankly just looks like a cheap version of itself. So if it were a new house being presented, I asked myself if it would be approvable, and I can't see us approving something that would have this lack of character and detail. So, you know, I think something needs to be done in order to remedy that, you know, because like I say, what's being done is sort of just a stripped down version of what's there. That, the existing neighborhood has some charm and character to it with the other houses. There's some other Tudor style houses that this one works well with now, but it's not going to anymore. So I just have some concerns about that.
All right. Let's hear the rest of the commissioners' comments, and I think the applicant would like to have a chance to speak again, so I will reopen the public hearing. But Commissioner Schmid?
Yeah, I think that this project, could really benefit from a good 3D. I mean, there's a lot of surfaces going on. There's a lot of things happening. And I agree with Commissioner Toronis is that we're moving from something that has detail and texture to it to something that's largely flat. And even as I look at the house next door, it has trellises and it has trims and it has depth to it. And so I think I think there's some more study to be done on how to really adapt these materials and make a good statement here. Because I agree, it's certainly not a modern house. And I don't even feel like we're even trying to shift to a modern Tudor. It's just, we're going flat. And so I think there needs to be more study on how to address some of that and be able to give us a better chance at seeing the depth of the materials. The siding could be good, but in this front elevation, it's just the one little triangle over the entry door. And it doesn't, it's not until you get around the back that you see that there's so much more to it, but that's not what the front's going to read like. The front's going to read like a lot of flat stucco. So I would like to see before next time a bit more study on that.
Commissioner Gall?
Yeah, I don't want to reiterate what's the Commissioner Toronis and Commissioner Schmidt have said, but I have to agree with them. But the comment was made by the applicant that there's no real change to the front, but in fact, there's a lot of change, not maybe to the mass or the shape, but to all the detail, which in my opinion, this is a very charming house. It has a smaller Tudor type of feel to it. And I get it if you don't want to do that, but I think that the architecture needs to take a firm direction to make this thing work, because I don't think it's working right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to just briefly reopen the public hearing so we can hear from the applicant who would like to speak again. Oh, sorry, before I do that, I see Commissioner Sargent's hand is up. Commissioner Sargent, do you want to speak now or later?
Yeah, no, I'll speak now. I just, in listening to what my fellow commissioners are saying, I'm just wondering whether this is a good candidate for a design review consultant. I mean, we're giving the applicant direction, but it's, I think it's a little I mean, it's clear that we don't like the direction, but I don't think we're really pointing in the direction we want to go, or we think the project needs to go. So it just seems to me it would be better for the applicant if we could avail them of the opportunity to do what the last project did, which is work with somebody who really understands our design guidelines and can help coach them to getting to a successful project in the shortest amount of time. So I'd love to hear what other commissioners think about that. And, you know, we could certainly hear from the applicant on it, but I think we've done that in recent projects and I'm not sure that's helped.
All right, so let's just briefly hear what the applicant wants to state. I'm going to reopen the public hearing at this time. And Adam, would you like to speak again?
Sure. No, I definitely appreciate the comments and I understand where you're coming from, but I also would like to pose the question, if you visited the site, maybe I should have provided images. I wish I could screen share the street view, but this project has already gone through multiple remodels and it's void of much of that character you're talking about. The roof itself is a cheap manufactured imitation of Spanish tile. It has off-the-shelf gutters that have been tacked on. The garage door, I would say, is not original. The hardscape on the steps, the back half of the house went under a recent remodel and has vinyl windows and doors across the board. So in my drawing, it may look charming, but in reality, it's already past that point of the original Tudor. So I guess my comment in whether or not we change the front, that was more in terms of forms and addition. Now the material palette, I'd be happy to provide an actual color material board. You brought up the views. I think that might help in the style and direction we're going for. There are precedent ones of the style they like in Burlingame. And, you know, looking at the ones on either side of this house, I would argue those ones don't necessarily have character, you know, just in terms of the plainness and look. But I see where you're going from in terms of drawing, but I'm looking at the street view right now, and hopefully you could pull it up as well. But it definitely does not have the charm of a Tudor.
All right, thank you. Does anybody have any questions to add to that? And Adam, I think we were also saying, or some of the commissioners were saying, that we could possibly benefit from a 3D rendering as well to better understand the forms that are being proposed along the sides of the house for the main part. So does anybody have any anything they'd like to ask or clarify before I close the public hearing again? Okay, so I will close the public hearing and we're back to the commissioners. Vice Chair Taronis.
Yeah, I don't know how I could disagree. I couldn't disagree more with the architect. Looking at street view now, I see the roofing has changed, but other than that, the front character of the house to me appears to be relatively original, or what I would think is original. The sticking on the windows, the Tudor timbering, the stucco siding, the panelized garage door, whether it's original or not, is perfectly in character with what's there. So, you know, that being said, I'm looking at what's there and looked at what's there when I visited the site, and what is being proposed is a stripped down version of not a Tudor, not anything.
Commissioner Schmidt.
Yeah, I again, I want to reiterate, I think that there's an opportunity for either more photography of example projects that they're trying to work with, and or being able to do some better elevations for the front. These are good drawings, but they're not really establishing a whole lot of depth or character. So everything looks flat. And so that's what I'm assuming will happen, because there's not a lot of depth to this elevation to begin with, just given its style. So unless there's something going to be done about that, it's really going to be hard to see how it's going to get better by taking away the detail. So I think we, you know, to be able to move this forward, I think we need to see more out of it. I feel confident that Adam could do a good job with this. So I'm not as motivated for the design consultant, but I do agree that the last one that we looked at went through an incredible transformation. So I would say whichever helps the applicant move it forward.
Commissioner Sargent?
Yeah, unless somebody else wants to comment, I actually, you know, part of our process is that we actually stipulate at the beginning of the consideration of this item that all the commissioners have visited the site. So, you know, as part of our homework of preparing for this, we review the plans, and then we go to the site and look at the existing house and the proposed project in the context of the whole neighborhood. And, you know, one of the things that the design guidelines task us with doing is not considering houses that they describe as non-example houses, and also the houses that probably weren't required to go through design review. And you know, I can't specifically say what happened with those houses on either side of this house, but you know, I've been on the commission for 9 years, and you know, I live residential architecture and construction, and I don't remember these being considered in the 9 years that I was here. So I really think this should go to a design review consultant based on the back and forth that we just had, because I just think it would get the commission and the applicant on the same page faster, and which I think benefits everybody. And so, and I think that the times we have this discussion and we defer, it's a disaster for the applicant and for the commission and thus for the community. So I move we refer this to a design review consultant.
I second.
Commissioner Camerado, did you want to say something? No. Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Sargent, seconded by Vice Chair Taronis. Is there any discussion on the motion? May we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Camerado,
Aye.
Commissioner Gall,
Aye.
Commissioner Sargent,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmid,
Aye.
Vice Chair Taronis,
Aye.
Chair Say.
Aye. So the motion passes 6-0-0-1. We now move on to agenda item 9B, 224 Channing Road. If you are the applicant or the applicant's representative, please raise your hand now so we can identify you and prepare you to speak when it is your turn. And please turn on your video at that time.
Madam Chair, I'm going to recuse from this item. I have a financial interest in a property within 500 feet of it.
Thank you. Were any commissioners not able to visit the project site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communications regarding this project? Seeing none, let the record note that all commissioners present have visited the project site. May we have a staff report, please?
Yes, the applicant is proposing renovations on the first floor of the existing house at 224 Channing Road and a new 845 square foot second story addition. The new second floor would add 2 bedrooms and 2 full bathrooms. Staff notes that the plans label the detached garage as an accessory dwelling unit, ADU. This may be proposed in the future, but at this time, the detached structure is currently used as a garage and has been treated as such in terms of zoning code compliance and analysis for this proposed project. Should the applicant propose converting the garage into an ADU in the future, per state law, the application will be reviewed administratively and would not be subject to Planning Commission review. So in summary, the application is for design review for a second-story addition to an existing single-family dwelling. The applicant is available for questions, but first I'm available for questions of staff.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff? All right. Seeing none, I'm going to open the public hearing. Will the applicant please step forward, state your name, and add anything you would like regarding your project?
I'm Robert Mena, I'm the project architect, and I'm here to answer any questions you have and look forward to the approval. I believe the owners, Matt and Kia, are online too. They could speak to the project themselves about their situation and wanting to move ahead with the project, and it looks like they're there.
Thank you, Robert. Hello, everybody. My name is Matt. That's my wife, Kia, and we appreciate the time tonight. We've owned this home now for just a little more than 4 years. We've got an 8-year-old daughter, an 11-year-old daughter that attends St. Catherine's here, and it's high time they get their own room. We're living in a 2-bedroom, 2-bath currently, and my 11-year-old is getting older and she needs her own bedroom. So that's the reason why we're here.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant, commissioners? I had one quick question for Robert.
Yes.
It may be a drafting issue, but the existing front elevation and the proposed front elevation shows a different roof line over the bay at the front. But when I saw it on site, it seemed to look more like the proposed front elevation roof line. It's not.
I think you're recalling probably the drafting, the pitch. I can tell what you're commenting about now. It's the roof over the bay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like the one on the proposed, correct?
And existing to remain as such.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. All right. I don't see any questions from the commissioners. Would anybody from the public like to speak on this item? Do we have any chats or emails?
I'm not seeing any chats, and we don't have an email on this application.
All right then. So with that, I will close the public hearing. Commissioners, comments? Vice Chair Toronis?
Sorry, well,
Oh,
I had to.
have a question?
No, I can make it a comment. We don't have to open the public hearing.
All right.
So yeah, I really like the design. I think it's a relatively simple bungalow now. It's going to be sort of, not quite a butterfly bungalow, but, I think it's going to be a nice addition. The details and the character of the existing are replicated on the addition. I think that's going to work nicely. My only comment or question, I guess, was just in regards to the window styles, but I think Robert is familiar with has done other projects in the city, and just making sure that those are simulated true divided lights on the new windows with the muttons that are proposed. And my other question was, or make it a comment, on the new windows into bedroom number 2, it looks like those are being replaced. The double hungs are being replaced with casements, I assume, for egress. Just a suggestion that those big, large casements, you might consider adding some muttons to those just to keep with that same character. So really just a comment, but not a deal breaker. Thank you.
Any other comments? Commissioner Schmid?
Yeah, hi. I think too that it's going to be a nice project. One thing that I kind of picked up on is on this proposed left elevation and the roof over the stair extension. It kind of, from this particular elevation, it looks a little odd to me. And I would have liked to have actually seen it just be an extension of the roof above to come over. Now, looking at the front elevation, I understand that then comes into the declining height envelope, which is probably why that step is there. But I don't know that I think when you look at that in 3D, it's going to be a little wonky. And I kind of wished it was just integrated into that upper roof. But again, not a deal breaker. Otherwise, I think the project will look nice.
Any other comments? All right, well, I will agree as well. I think this is a very charming design, nice addition to a home. Almost looks like a seamless addition to the existing bungalow style. By the collection of comments that we received, I will make a motion that we bring this project back on consent.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion by myself, Commissioner Say, seconded by Commissioner Taronis. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Commissioner Camerado,
Aye.
Commissioner Gall,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Aye.
Vice Chair Tarotis,
Aye.
and Chair Say.
Aye. So the motion passes 5-0-1-1. This action is not appealable. Moving on to agenda item 9C, 1327 Benito Avenue. If you are the applicant or the applicant's representative, please now raise your hand so we can identify you and prepare you to speak when it is your turn. And we'll ask that you please turn on your video at that time. Were any commissioners not able to visit the project site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communications regarding this project? Seeing none, let the record note that all commissioners present have visited the project site. May we have a staff report, please?
The applications for design review and a special permit for building height for a new 2-story single-family dwelling and detached garage at 1327 Benito Avenue, zoned R1. The subject property is bordered by utility alleys along the right side and the rear property lines. The applicant proposes to demolish the existing 1-story single-family dwelling with a detached garage and to build a new 2-story single-family dwelling and detached garage. The total proposed floor area is 3,410 square feet, where 3,420 square feet is the maximum allowed. The applicant is requesting a special permit for a proposed building height between 30 and 36 feet. And the proposed height to the highest roof ridge is 31 feet 5 inches as measured from the average top of curb elevation point. The project proposes to remove one protected size tree on the site, a cottonwood tree at the rear of the property, and the applicant has submitted a certified arborist report prepared by Maine Tree Company and dated November 12th, 2020. It notes that the health of the tree is poor. The report has been reviewed by the city arborist, and he notes that a protected tree removal permit will be required for the removal of this tree. There was one item sent to the public comments section about this project from a resident named Stuart Bacon, and I will read that into the record now. I live at 1320 Benito. Since the proposed house is a full 2-story, will the ground level have to be reduced in order to conform to the city's height requirement? I ask this as the house that was built at 1330 did not require the builder to lower the ground level in order to conform. In removing the dirt, the major roots of several trees along the property line were severed. I was concerned, and so I asked the city arborist to see if the trees had been damaged. He said yes, as the roots were major supporting ones, and without them, the trees might blow over onto my house in a severe windstorm. The builder was then instructed to remove the trees, one of which was a beautiful oak, which I hated to see go. Stuart Bacon. That concludes the staff report, and I can take any questions that you have.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff? Seeing none, I'm going to open the public hearing. Will the applicant please step forward, state your name, and add anything you would like regarding your project?
Yeah, hi, James Chu, Design Associates. Well, the special permit is very clear for project at this type of situation where we have elevated lots at front. We are asking for special permit only for less than 18 inches above the height limits. But yet our finished floor elevation is about 7 feet above the average top of curve. So I don't think we are asking too much. It is a brand new, and we have a neighbor on our left where we have more than 10-foot setback. There's an alley on the right, about 10 foot, which I think the height shouldn't be an issue. As far as the tree goes, I'm not too aware of any significant tree except the one that we request for removal. As you can see from the site plan, our yard at the rear is very limited. And so I really like to hear your comments. But one thing I do want to add is we may come back with some additional vine pockets along the left side, along the fence, since we do have enough width for the driveway to accommodate that.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant? Vice Chair Toronis?
Yeah, thank you. So James, in regards to the letter from the neighbor who was asking about grading and the potential damage to tree roots, it's kind of a moot point. You're removing all the trees anyway from the site.
At the rear.
Right, at the rear. I mean, there's street trees that are remaining, but when you do your regrading, all of the trees are being removed. So it's not like you're undermining any existing trees because they're all being removed in the first place. Right?
Well, Richard, if you look at the site plan on sheet A1, majority of the tree are at the yard at the rear.
Right.
So the building that we're building, the footprint really are not. We're not taking out that many tree, and also the grading wise, the majority of the grading is to create some sort of patio off the family room at the rear. I mean, we definitely can look into the matter, maybe reducing the patio, but I sort of disagree with our neighbor's assumption that we are grading so much. If we do, we probably won't even apply for special permit.
Right. So I guess my point is that in the area where you are grading, like in the rear yard, in the patio area, those trees are being removed. There's a couple of trees, tree number 9, another one that's not specified, but there's an oak tree and another one that are outside of your patio area that are going to remain. You're not regrading in that area, so that's sort of quells the neighbor's concerns in terms of undermining trees. Is my point. So.
I see. Yeah, I will need to consult our landscape architect and arborist and see why those trees are being removed.
Okay. All right. The questions that I have on the front steps, James. I know that in order to draw a front elevation, you kind of have to abstract those front steps. But are the steps that are leading up to the house, are they pretty much following grade? Is there going to be any sort of sidewall or retaining wall along the sides of the steps, or what's going to happen there?
Yeah, it is our intention to follow the grade as much as we can. So it may be drawing error, that you saw, that you see that straight line going up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we will revisit that.
Yeah, you might have to just abstract it a little and just define, what the yard's going to be sloping in that area. So, okay.
Yes, thank you.
I think that was it for my questions. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gall?
Yeah, two questions, James. First one is that cottonwood tree alive? I walked back the alley and I thought it was dead. I mean, the arborist just says it's in poor condition, but it looks dead.
Okay.
Actually,
No?
I'm sorry. This is Joseph. I'm the owner. That cottonwood is dead.
Yeah, I was going to say that there's no. Yeah, the only thing that's green on there is the ivy. So
yes,
okay,
it's just surrounded by ivy. Correct.
Yeah, and ivy's going to kill it anyways. My next question, James, and I think you probably knew this one was coming, is that chimney at the front on the left-hand side. Is there? I mean, I get it. You got a window up above. That just looks out of place on the design to me. And I'm not sure what the solution is.
Yeah, I'll probably let my client to answer that. He wants to install an electric fireplace, so that doesn't require a chimney.
Yeah, no, and that's fine. I mean, I guess if the bump out could look like it had a purpose, to me, it just kind of looks like it doesn't have a purpose, and it wouldn't bother me if it was towards the rear.
Or maybe we could look. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, I was going to say it wouldn't necessarily need to have a chimney. I just think you could look at that again and maybe.
Maybe we'll just push that in.
Yeah.
Because really, that's not much. Maybe a foot. So that it doesn't really show from the exterior.
Yeah, just so that it's integrated into that elevation a little bit better. I think. But
I'll look
I know
into it.
you can come up with something. That's all I got. Thank you, though, very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sargent.
James, did you look at adding a roof to the full front porch? It looks like you have have FAR exception there that you could do it.
Sure, we can look into it.
Yeah, okay, that'd be great. I think it would make for a nicer space there. It might suit the design better.
Okay. Sure.
All right. Would any members of the public like to speak on this item? Do we have any chats?
I do have an email that has come in since the meeting began, so I can read that one out loud.
Okay.
Hello, I live at 1312 Alvarado Avenue in Burlingame. I have owned my home for 26 years. My home is one house to the southwest of 1327 Benito. Increasing the height of this home will adversely affect my view or blue sky. I understand that the zoning laws will allow for a two-story dwelling at this location. However, I would object to any special permits to allow for greater than normally allowed height for this project. Thank you for listening. And signed, Suzanne Rogers.
Thank you.
And that appears to be the only one. I don't see anything in chat.
All right. Thank you. With that, I will close the public hearing. Commissioners? Any comments, commissioners? Commissioner Schmid.
I think it's a nice looking project. I think that James has done a very good job with it. I think that the grade there and the extenuating circumstances support the request for the additional 18 inches of height. And I find this one very approvable.
Commissioner Camarado.
Yeah, I like the design. I think with some of the changes that Commissioner Sargent mentioned, especially with the front porch and a couple of other changes, I think this is an approvable project. So I'd like to see it come to consent.
Would you like to make that motion?
I approve this project as per the staff report. Bring it in front of, to bring it to consent.
So you'd like to make a motion to bring this project back to the consent calendar?
Correct.
Do we need a second?
I'll second.
By Commissioner
Sergeant.
Sargent, okay. I see Commissioner Gall's hand up. Did you have something to say?
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about consent. We did have a couple of concerns. Like I said, I was concerned about the fireplace. Commissioner Sargent had some suggestions to changing the front porch. I'm not 100% comfortable on consent. I'm just wondering if the maker of the motion would consider bringing it back on regular action.
I'll bring it back to regular action.
I'll renew my second. And I just wanted to make a comment. I'm no arborist, but I did read Google, and the cottonwood is a deciduous tree, so it loses its leaves in the winter. So it could still be alive and not have any leaves on it. I don't think that changes anything for the project or our consideration of it, but
yeah, I
just wanted to throw that out there.
Problem being on Zoom, we can look up things while we're on it.
Except me. Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Camarado, seconded by Commissioner Sargent. Is there any discussion on the motion? May we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Camarado,
Aye.
Commissioner Gall,
Aye.
Commissioner Sargent,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmid,
Aye.
Vice Chair Taronis.
Aye.
Chair Say.
Aye. So the motion, let's see, wait. Did we have we did not have a recusal on this one. I had in my notes wrong. So we have the motion passes 6-0-0-1. So we will move on now to agenda item number 10, Commissioners' reports. As we heard earlier this evening, we have one spot open, potentially 3 spots open if those members want to make a change to the Neighborhood Consistency Subcommittee. So think about if you'd like to join this subcommittee. We are looking for 1 member, and depending on if the current members who are Michael Gall, Commissioner Gall, and Vice Chair Taronis, if they would like to remain on the subcommittee or withdraw from the committee, there may or may not be additional positions open on this subcommittee. So just keep that in mind. And then we will move on to agenda item number 11, Director's Reports. Are there any directors?
First up is FYI for 3 Cananea Place. Update to landscape plan is required by the Planning Commission on the previously approved design review project.
Does anybody want to call this up? Looks like no.
Any members of the public?
Looks like there's a chat. Let's see.
Oh,
okay. That was just a thank you. Okay.
So seeing none, I think that one is approved or accepted. And then for the prior city council meeting, there were a couple of items related to planning. First was the review of our annual housing element progress. It's called the annual progress report, and it essentially looks at the housing production, and in particular puts emphasis on issuance of building permits, which the state considers to be actual units that will be delivered. We do get to also count entitlements, but they really focus on the building permit issuance. And this year, the numbers look quite good in terms of meeting the city's obligations under the regional housing fair share requirements, and that extends also to levels of affordability, which is something new for Burlingame. I think in the past, the city has been pretty good at approving just in terms of numbers, but it's always been a little harder to reach those deeper levels of affordability with the village of Burlingame being approved and building permits issued. Now the city has a substantial number of below market rate units as well that can be reported to the state. That was all kind of good in terms of state reporting. The other item that came up was a request for an evaluation of allowing greater floor area ratios for life science projects and office projects on the bayfront. And in particular, just looking at the strip of land of properties that face Old Bayshore Highway. Those have always been treated a little differently. They've been allowed hotels, whereas the rest of the Inner Bayshore has not. So there have been a number of inquiries from interested parties wanting to see the feasibility of having higher floor area ratios for life science and office and R&D on those properties. City Council was interested in it, but thought that there needs to be more discussion, and in particular to pull in the Planning Commission as well. So we have a joint City Council Planning Commission meeting coming up at the end of April, and they would like to have that item on the agenda so that everybody could be part of the discussion in terms of both the policy direction, but also what floor area ratio might be, what might be appropriate. And that would also provide us an opportunity to hear from some of the interested parties who can tell us a little bit more about, you know, some of the spatial requirements of life science uses and how that might impact floor area ratios and other development standards. So that's coming up. That joint meeting is on the last Saturday of April, which is April 24th. And we're still working with the mayor on the other items for that meeting, but that at least will be on the agenda for that joint meeting.
Great, thank you very much. Is there anything else anybody would like to talk about?
Question.
Yes.
For some reason in my calendar, I have a commissioner's dinner this coming Friday. I assume that that's canceled or
not happening. You're welcome to enjoy dinner and think of your fellow commissioners, but we will not have an in-person dinner this year. So we should have scratched it off the calendar.
getting out. That's
So sad.
oh well.
All right, then with that, I think I will adjourn the meeting at 8:49 p.m.
I'm gonna go
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.
Bye, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.